Hello, everybody. I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Georgianna.
And this is Wholehearted Loving, where we teach you simple tools to grow the muscles you need to be with big feelings and overwhelming sensations in your body.
Whether you have active challenges in your life or relationships, or whether you're just here to learn to be kinder to yourself, we pull out all the little things that make life feel better, the things that give you a sense of hope and direction.
So if you're too hard on yourself or on others,
if you want to feel real, deep connection in your life and relationships,
even if you want to reprogram your inner critic while you're sleeping,
this is a great place to be.
So welcome, and we hope this episode brings you just the tidbit you needed today.
Enjoy the show.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. Today we're going to be talking about predictable problems and what you can do about them. You can find self-reflection prompts for this episode and every episode on our Instagram at Wholehearted Loving, and you can learn more about us and how to practice with us live at wholeheartedloving.com. And let's get started with a body-based self-connection practice.
Okay, so this one is a little more subtle. It's a little bit of movement, but a little bit more subtle than maybe movement that we've done together. And we're going to need to root ourselves. So find some sense of sturdiness to whatever you're standing on or sitting on. I wouldn't really recommend this one for laying down. You could be creative and try it out, but I think sitting or standing is going to be best. I would say probably standing is best, but I'm going to do it sitting. I've done it sitting before, and it's okay as well. And this is something I was playing with a week or two ago, inspired by Qigong. And it's that we're going to be bamboo. Ooh. Bamboo blowing in the wind. Mm-hmm. So bamboo has a sturdiness to it, but it also has this ability to bend a little and catch the breeze. So just notice how you might be able to embody some of those characteristics of the bamboo, the sturdiness of it. Maybe that, tallness, straightness. I don't know the right word, but sticks up straight. But also it's got these little leaves. And even in the sturdiness, there's room for a little bit of movement. It doesn't crack and break when the breeze flows in, when the wind blows. And this isn't really about you must pretend to be bamboo, but this is about feeling into the qualities of sturdiness and ease of movement within your body. And also letting this be just the beginning point. It's not like you have to hang out in this particular movement the whole time, but what happens when you begin here? Do you end up wanting more stillness? Do you want more movement? What do you notice? Like, imagine if you are the one determining how windy it is, how breezy it is. Would it be a strong breeze that shakes you up a little bit more, or would it be really, really subtle? Would you, as the bamboo, only be moving side to side or also front and back? My bamboo doesn't like doesn't like forward and back right now. It's a side to side bamboo.
But around.
No, around. Yep, nope. Tried it, don't like it. So what do you notice? I noticed you were laughing, giggling a little bit.
Well, it started with the leaves, which I was thinking of as being crazy hair. And then I laughed because it gave me this strong visual and an association that I think will be helpful for everyone. wacky waving, inflatable arm waving tube men?
Yes, those
Yes,
dudes like
those dudes.
this.
Yeah. So the wacky waving one is the unregulated nervous system. And the bamboo in the breeze is the regulated nervous system.
Ah, I like that. I was walking a client through this one recently, and we did the progressions actually from bamboo, and then we actually did seaweed, which I don't know if I've shared on the podcast before, but imagining your seaweed and you're sort of moving through the lake or the ocean. And then we progressed to, those dudes at the car dealership? Just go a little wild.
Yes.
And everyone sort of knows who they are, what they are. And there's going to be different times where movement along that spectrum feels better or worse for us.
Yeah.
And it's neat to give ourselves the time to discover in this very moment, where do I land on that spectrum of movement? Which one feels like something supportive for my system right now?
Yeah.
And it reminds me actually of the other day I was working with a client, and she was saying, I've been feeling really agitated lately. Like I need to have a huge meltdown. And I've been, doing these, I've been walking and I've been listening to the podcast, and, I've been doing some breath work, maybe even some stretches. I can't remember exactly what she said. And it's all sort of taken the edge off, but I still feel that agitation inside. And so we spoke about, well, what if there's energy inside that needs to move? If you could move it in any way that you wanted to, what might that look like? Or if you have no idea how you want to move, what if we just tried some things? And she could tell that the energy was, she wanted to get energy out. So we played with Tiger, another sort of rooted in Qigong practice. And she did that one, and she's like, oh, I feel so much better. And so I'm telling the story because laying down works sometimes to help you feel better, or going for a walk works sometimes. There's different, I find, categories of ways to connect with our body and ways to support our body. And I like to think of them as, do I need stillness? Do I need a sense of grounding? Do I need a sense of containment and holding? Do I need to feel touch? Do I need to move energy? And if I need to move energy, do I need to move it in a way that is sort of subtle and soothing? Or do I need to get out? Like, do I have some fight energy to get out of my system? And it really helps to get to know yourself in that way, to realize that not one thing is going to help all the time. If you have a lot of agitation inside you, and these other sort of more still and more quiet tools aren't giving you what you need, try something different. Right? So you can see, like, bamboo is so subtle in that movement. There's a sturdiness and a flow, but it's really subtle. Seaweed, you start to get a little bit more movement, right? The joints get to loosen up a little bit more and flow a little bit more. There's still that anchoring. Seaweed is like rooted in the earth. And then I don't know why I want to call him Jelly Man, because he has nothing to do with jelly. But he's rooted by whatever that thing is that plants him on the ground and blows air up him. But basically everything beyond that thing, that fan, I think it's a fan, right? Is it a fan underneath him? Besides the fan, everything else is that, like, it's movable in all the directions, right? So noticing what helps you contain energy or move energy, depending on what you need.
Yeah. The volatility of that movement too, right? Like predictable movement versus unexpected, going with the flow at whatever speed and density, very unexpected. I can feel good.
And like there's some thrashing involved, right? With that dude. And sometimes that thrashing can be like that tantrum we want to have. Right? And so if you ever need a tantrum, a tantruming bamboo, that's no fun.
Ooh, no rigid tantrum? No. Definitely not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Gigi.
You're welcome.
I like that. I saw a woman once. This is the most beautiful tattoo I've ever seen. It was a very supple woman with her spine was bamboo.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, I thought that was very meaningful. Yeah.
I like it.
All right. Predictable problems.
Mm-hmm.
This came up for me in a season-related way. So, like, literal and figurative use of the word season. Right now it's springtime where I live, and it feels like summer, and the sun has come out. And I was sitting outside, and I remembered, and I'm so glad I remembered, because I would have been really annoyed if it had happened again, because it happens every year. I get one band of sunburn on the top of my forehead and one on the bridge of my nose. And then I spend the rest of the year trying to catch up. And this year I was like, hey, I don't like that when that happens, and I can do something about that, and I'm going to.
I like all three of those realizations. Hey, I don't like that. The second one, I can do something about that, and I'm going to, and I do,
Yeah.
Because I've had times where I just stop at, hey, that's annoying.
Yeah.
And I just live in that energy, right?
Yeah.
Or I get to, hey, that's annoying, I could do something about it, and then I don't.
Right. Yeah.
Right. But just cap it off with, I can do something about it, and I'm going to do it.
Yeah. And I'm going to. And I get a visceral sense now when I know I'm going to do something versus when I want to and will likely not follow up on doing something, right? So nothing is going to cause this sunburn situation to happen because I've truly resolved in my body. I've been really good about the sunscreen. I've been good about asking random people for sunscreen. And the other day I was out and I didn't have sunscreen or anything else. So I was like, will it help if I spit on my hand and rub that on my head? Should I scrabble some mud out of the ground? Or, okay, no, I'll cover my head with my hand in the shade and I'll finish this page and then I'll go inside, Resolution.
Yes. So it was important enough to you. You were sick of it enough. And I think that's the thing unfortunately, as humans, I feel like many of the changes we make, we're waiting until we're sick enough of the problem before we change it. But still, that's better than being sick of it and not changing it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's a great incentive. And it's small enough also that it's something I can resolve to do in a meaningful way.
Well, what's important about it being simple and small enough is, one, it's doable. And then once it's doable, this is a thing I find really important, is it helps shift our self-identity. Right now, I believe myself to be someone who does the things it takes to make my life a little bit more pleasant. And I carry that to other moments and other situations, and it all sorts of snowballs and creates traction so that what I've discovered in myself is I've become more and more like that. Oh, here I notice annoyance. Oh, here I notice what I could do about it. And let's go do it. And I find all of these little things that before, when I didn't hold that self-identity of I am someone who has the ability to make my life better and make my life better by doing small things, I would just feel the annoyance or see the problem and be like, okay. And that's it. It would just end in sitting in frustration.
Yeah. Right.
And I was pretty good at solving big problems in my life. But it was the little annoyances that I was like, whatever. And it almost seems like it takes too much trouble in the moment to make a plan or do something different or proactively do something. So then I do nothing. And then it happens again and again and again and again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the vibe. You did it perfectly for how it feels in my body. Ugh, that again. And it's like, oh, let that be a cue, you know? I'm exactly the same. I could go on and on, not noticing or not, having time or energy or space to take on these little changes. And so chunking them down is the first thing, finding the truest one in the moment. And then for me, I need external cues, right? Like I find you're really good at generating, like you'll notice a bunch of things and then it'll have some domino effect where you're like, now I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. Whereas I might need to be told, hey, you could do X, Y, or Z. Do any of those feel good? Like I won't necessarily come up with the ideas on my own. But I can use external triggers. So things like seasons changing, right? This trigger was the sun came out, and I happened to remember. I actually remember thinking like, oh, I always get that sunburn. Oh, that sunburn. Then I was like, oh, agency, choice, power. Not today, Satan. And then I thought that people could apply this to whatever seasons of life, seasons of relationship and work. And you can use those external timing cues to notice what it is that gives you that, this again feeling and what tiny thing you could do about it.
Yeah, I love this because we've worked with lots of people who are maybe not super happy with how their life feels. And initially they'll come to us and be like, my life doesn't feel good, but I don't even know where to begin. Right? There's so many things. So much is overwhelming. And people seem to think that they have to make huge changes in order to feel a bit better in their life. And this is such a great way to make a little inventory. Because if you made an inventory of the things that perpetually annoy you, whether it's daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, you're going to have a lot of great ideas to pull from of like, oh, that thing that happens every year. What could I do about that now already? I was working one time with a client and I can't remember exactly what it was, but I know it was a yearly annoyance for her. And she told me about it. And I was like, okay, well, it's going to be coming up in a few months. That's my internal thought. So we talked it through and I said, well, would you want to pull out your calendar right now and already jot something down so that it's in your calendar and you know that it's coming, right? And she's like, oh yeah, that's a good idea. I want to do that. And then as we talked about it, it made more sense to her. She's like, and I think I should also write something in 2 weeks before that happens. And I think I should write something in about, a month or two before it happens, because there might be some things I can do or mentally prepare for it coming rather than having it hit me in the face again, right when the thing starts or whatever the thing was. And we laughed about it because that was such a simple thing to do. It took less than 2 minutes, but all of a sudden she's set up for it for next year when it rolls around. And the old pattern was it just hits her in the face every year. And she's the same annoyed feeling every year. Like, oh, thing's happening again.
Yeah. I feel like half the annoyance is the fact that subconsciously we're like, I totally could have done something about this, but I didn't.
Yeah. Yeah. So I have many examples. Do we want to give some examples?
Yeah. Great. Please do.
So one of my annoyances, I don't love socks. And my mother will be very disappointed in me. And Shalina, our friend, will be very disappointed because according to Chinese medicine, like you really should wear socks, shouldn't have cold feet. But anyways, I'm working on the sock thing. But in the meantime, what that means is I love walking around barefoot in my house. But then on occasion, when I need to leave the house, and I have shoes that are sort of like, flip-floppy shoes that don't really need socks. But I also have shoes that really do need socks. And what happens is every time I'm at the door, ready to leave the house, ready to put on my shoes, and I have no freaking socks. And I got to go backtrack back into the bedroom and get my socks, because we've all been conditioned like your socks should be in the closet or the drawers in your bedroom with all the rest of your clothes where you get dressed. But like I don't wear socks in the house, but my socks are still in the bedroom with the clothes.
Yeah.
And then I thought, what if I just put if not all the socks, just a few pairs of socks by my shoes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. This is a genius idea.
It's like, this is way better.
Yeah.
And then so I open the closet door by the front door to see my shoes, and I see socks right there. And every time I see the socks right there, I have a little moment of, oh, look at that. Socks are there. I did that.
Get
And
that.
like,
I've
not
got my own
only
bag.
do I feel good about my day because it can be smoother, I also feel good about myself because I know, like, I did this for me. Not everybody needs to do this because they don't have this problem, but it's a problem I have. I don't like it, and I can do something about it.
Amazing.
Hallelujah.
Gigi, this is the most timely thing because it is, as I said, summer. It is flip-flop season. I went to the gym yesterday. As I was leaving the house in my flip-flops, I was like, oh, I need socks to go with my gym shoes, which live in my car. So I then had to go take the thing and go back to the bedroom, get the socks. And then at the end of the gym, I took the socks off. I'm like, well, I've never left the gym with dirty socks in my hand. Like, this system isn't the best. And now I realize I will put a bin of socks in my trunk with my gym shoes. It'll be magnificent.
Yes, and you'll tweak it along the way. This is what I also, being a recovering perfectionist, right? I think why I didn't implement certain systems was because in my mind I hadn't figured out the best system yet. And now I realize it's like, just start with some system, just something. And then as you try it out, you'll realize, hey, like when you brought socks to the gym, now you're like, well, what do I do with the socks now? Right? So now you're like, oh, I think I need a bin of socks in my car. And then when you have a bin of socks in your car, you'll figure out what the next thing is that makes your life easier.
Yeah.
Right?
It'll be hiding the bin from my mother so that I don't have to explain to her why I need a bin of socks in the trunk instead of just going to my sock drawer. But because it will feel true for me, she'll understand. It's great.
Right? And you're not saying that, you're not telling your mom that she needs a sock bin in her car or that everyone else should have one. And this is what I actually really love about this is really all about accepting we are wired the way we are, at least for right now, and working with it, working to support who I am and how I'm wired right now, versus making myself wrong for how I am and how I'm wired and pushing myself to do things like how everyone else does them and what's easy and what works for everyone else, and then making yourself wrong because you just don't feel good doing things that way. They don't make sense for you.
Totally. And most of those people who've created those systems for us aren't feeling so great themselves, you know? The normal ways have not been developed because everybody's feeling like good and easeful together.
Yes. This reminds me of something we did with our kids earlier when they were younger. It'd be time to get the kids ready for bed. And if you have kids, many kids are not raring to go to bed every night. And at the time where we were living, we had the living room, main floor, and their bedrooms are upstairs, and their toothbrushes and all their things to get ready for bed were upstairs in the bathroom. And every night it would be trying to drag them, not coerce them, but get them upstairs to brush their teeth, which they don't want to brush their teeth either because that's not high priority for them. And then I think one day I thought, what if we put the toothbrushes downstairs so that we can just brush downstairs while they're sort of already downstairs? And then all of a sudden it changed everything. Just simple things, but it was a simple thing that came out of an everyday annoyance that I thought, surely we don't have to feel this every day forever.
Yeah.
Right? And we don't have to do that now. They're older. It doesn't matter so much. They have that routine established. But at that time, it was this daily annoyance. And we've lived with it for a long time. I think there's something in us that is very familiar and comfortable almost with accepting that there's annoyances every day.
Right.
And I think that's a good thing. This ability to not feel like everything has to be perfect and go absolutely smoothly. But it does make me wonder, are there annoyances that we just live with that don't actually have to be annoyances?
Yeah, totally. This is making me think of interior design, and the interior design name for what we're talking about on like a physical, emotional level is mise en place. You design your kitchen so that, you know, the pot you need that lives exactly there has its own home and everything is within arm's reach exactly where you need it to be. And this is that for like your mental and emotional well-being.
Yeah. Right. And it's really symbolic of something bigger, which is I matter.
Yeah.
I matter. My ease matters. Feeling flow in my life matters. I deserve that. I'm worthy of feeling good in my day-to-day environment, in the flow of my day.
I know what I need and what to do about it.
Yes. And a lot of us weren't encouraged to have that as a focal point growing up, to understand how it is that we feel and what it is that we need and what would feel more easeful for us or more pleasant. So we're actually learning now, you know, what it would look like to set ourselves up, set our day up, set our space up to feel better.
Yeah, totally. One of the, I think probably the first time this really came up for me in life, geez, that I was aware of anyway, was when I was like 37 or something. Been around a while. And I noticed that the trees had bloomed. And yet again, I hadn't noticed it. I was like, oh, I never notice the change from empty tree limbs to big blossoms in summertime. And like, I would like to notice that. That happens once a year for every year you're alive. And then that's it. You know, I'm like, I want to start noticing that. So I did.
So how did you do that? You just noticed that you missed it and you started paying attention more, or like how did that happen?
Yeah. I wonder if I can explain. It's like a thunking that happens inside my system, like something thunks into place and it's like, yep, that's happening. So even though it was like a whole year away, it's like I made a mental note and it just carries forward. It's like it comes up, like I've instructed it to come up in the future.
Yeah, I think those mental notes important. Like some of us beyond the mental note need some sort of other note, you know, written note, visual note, whatever. But I think what I sense you're talking about is like intention. Like all of a sudden there was this like feeling of I want to be intentional about seeing when things start to bloom. And I think just even noting that for yourself, you're more likely to notice when it happens. It's not a guarantee. If you know that about yourself, like, oh, I can be intentional in my thought, but if I really don't give myself some other helpful cues and reminders, I'm again going to forget. Like it's just best to know how you're wired, right? And what you need in order to allow that intention to come into fruition.
Yeah. My other tool for that would have been putting in my calendar, starting from like March through till May, every day a reminder, notice trees, notice trees, notice
That's
trees.
probably what I would have done. If that was a thing for me that was important, I would have looked at, hey, like what time of year do I need to start putting a reminder in my phone?
Yeah.
Right. What are some other ones? I've had ones with so if we just asked you, think of things that annoy you that happen all the time, right? One thing that annoyed me was I don't have tons of time to do things like go to the gym. I have a pretty good routine now, but there was a period in my life where my schedule made it difficult for a routine to happen in that way. Plus, I didn't prioritize enough to make it a routine. So I want to own that. But so what would happen was I would like to be able to pop into the gym when I had a pocket of free time. But what I noticed was when I would have a random pocket of free time, I would never have my gym clothes. So that would mean I'd have to go all the way home, get changed, and come all the way back. By that time, the time is gone. And that happened a few times and I would be annoyed. And then I thought, why do I not just have an extra gym bag in my car? And that's just like extra. Like it's just always there. I know I can count on it. And it's made my life so much better. I don't end up using it all the time, but there's moments where I'm like, I'm so happy it's there. And recently I was cleaning out my car, and I think someone else was around and helping me like take stuff out of the car. And I didn't realize that my gym bag had been taken out of the car. And I carried on with life. And I was like, okay, well, I'll just pop into the gym. And I'm like, where's my gym bag? But it was just a good sign of that became a system that works for me.
Yeah.
Right? Let's go upstairs and make sure that gym bag gets right back into the car. Yeah. Right? So that when I need it, it's there.
I love that. And these are skills that we all have. We just apply them like maybe haphazardly or in different areas. I know for me, it's much easier for me to organize filing systems if I'm somebody's administrative assistant than if I'm my own, right? There's going to be scenarios where the skills you have are obvious and applicable, and areas where they're not.
Mm-hmm. Right? I have like so many of these. I guess I noticed a lot of what annoys me. I think there was a trend in time where the season was find the things that annoy you and do something about them. And so another thing that I have is I get really dry hands. And I hate when I'm driving and I notice that my hands are dry and I have no moisturizer. And so this was a little bit extreme at the time, but I was like, I am buying one of those big pumps of moisturizer and shoving it in my car door. And like, I just drive around and there's always a thing of moisturizer in my car. My hands always feel better. Right? But I played around with it. At first I had it in my purse, but sometimes I changed my purse and I didn't put the moisturizer in the other purse. Or sometimes the purse is in the trunk and I'm sitting at the red light and my hands are dry. And so this is the part about tweaking, right? You try something, it helps a little, but isn't quite it. Like, what's the next thing? What's the next iteration you can try? And like every time I moisturize my hands in the car, I have this moment with myself of, you did a good thing. You did a good thing taking care of yourself. Yeah. Because I know, like, not everybody drives around with a big pump of moisturizer in their car door. Not everyone needs that.
I have a little one. We must have had this conversation at some point because I have moisturizer now at my desk and in my car and in my bathroom and every room or place. Yeah.
Mine is in my bathroom. It's on my nightstand. It's in the car, and it's in my purse, and it's on my desk.
Ooh, always having a hair tie. Extra hair ties.
Extra hair ties, yes.
Yeah.
I have them in my purse, in my extra bag, on my bathroom counter, in my desk drawer.
And only hair ties. Okay, here's a little silly one. You know when you get the perfect hair tie, right? And hopefully it's a multi-pack. And hopefully you don't lose your perfect hair tie. And then you'll have other hair ties that are not perfect. Or like I did this with underpants too. Yeah, chuck them, right? I'm like, oh, my underpants aren't making me happy. Get ones that make me happy. Like these are tiny little things, but every time you open the drawer and see the thing that doesn't make you happy, like that's having a compounding effect, you know?
Yes. I vowed to get rid of all the shoes that are uncomfortable, all the underwear that doesn't feel good, right? All the hair ties that have lost their elastic. Get rid of them.
Ugh. Yes.
Yes. What else did I write down here?
Can we apply this to relationships?
Yes. Yes. Yep. Yes. What did I write down here? I wrote down relationships. Okay, so one thing that would annoy me, I'm not sure if it was necessarily annoying, but it just caused clunkiness in my relationships, which is I oscillated between two things. The old pattern was actually, I hesitate to call it an old pattern because I noticed it was dependent on who I was in relationship with and the dynamic we had. But there were usually two extremes. Either I call out immediately what's bugging me and I sort of just verbal diarrhea it out in the moment. It doesn't matter if it's 3 a.m. or if we're driving in the car and it's not a good time. Like there was no consideration for context and timing and permission from the other person and how regulated each person was. No consideration for any of that. So that was one method that I had of sharing my grievances. The other method is don't share any grievance and pretend everything's fine. And so in the season of new relationship, and you talked about resolve, I resolved, like I said to myself, had an intention of, that's one thing I really want to practice doing differently. Mm-hmm. I would like to notice a grievance or annoyance or an irritation and just sit with it for a moment first. And like using that data and then considering context and timing and like actual urgency versus fear-based urgency of like, when is a good time to talk about this? And by good time, some of us have old patterns of, I'm waiting for the good time to bring this up with my partner. When really what we're doing is just avoiding, because we make the criteria for a good time. I don't even know what we make the criteria. But this is not about avoidance. This is about nuance, right? This is about taking various factors into consideration that I never did before. So that's definitely a new thing that I've been practicing, and it's paid off so well in relationship, because this is the relationship where I felt like I feel most heard and understood. I feel most free to share my grievances, and they get dealt with immediately.
I like that.
And I've never had that experience before.
Yeah. Just the simple pattern of being with that feeling for a minute. You just gave yourself a pause and the pattern shifts, right?
Mm-hmm. And I'd note that another shift that I was resolved to practice was share my grievance in a way that just shows how it impacts me. How does it impact my life negatively? How does it create a feeling for me that's not pleasant? And to share that from a place of, not from blame, which was my sort of old go-to, is share from blame and shame, which is sort of rooted in my family system. But share it from the place of, I really want you to know me. And part of knowing me is knowing how this thing is impacting me right now. And I want to share what's bothering me so that you know me better in this moment. And I've found that those are things that create so much more ease for me in relationship.
No doubt. And the other, for sure. Something in there you said tweaked me to, so if I'm remembering this woman in conscious relationship training who was really, really smiley. And she was very nice, but it wasn't smiley time. You know, there's people who are always smiling when they're not feeling smiley. They just are feeling like they should be smiley. And eventually, and people were giving her that feedback, right? Because that's the sort of venue that it is. And eventually she was like, everybody's always saying I'm smiling all the time. Like, fine, I won't smile. So that would be a good trigger. Everybody's always this thing that feels frustrating for me to hear. What might be in there, you know? And so she went on some dates and she reported back. She was like, everybody told me I was smiling all the time. So I stopped smiling, see what happens. And everybody thought she was like extra interesting and engaging. And it felt easier for them to be with her is what it came down to. And it felt easier for her to be with herself. It was tiny pattern shifts, right? It could be changing something big, like an emotional response you have, or a pattern, an action step that you take differently or pause instead of taking. It can be something as simple as not smiling for an hour and see what happens.
Yeah. I mean, relationally, I know that I've been practicing this maybe a little bit more advanced than not smiling in terms of like what you're practicing, but it's also not a big thing, which was asking someone for help.
Yeah.
And like on a practical level, asking someone for help, but also with decision making. I used to take on the full burden of decision making and trying to make the decision that would be best for everybody and make sense for everybody and take everybody into consideration. And recently it's just been practicing, saying to my partner, for example, like, how should we do tonight? I could either do this and you could do that, or we could do this first or that first. Like, can you help me decide? And I've never, it sort of shocks me to say this, but it's true. I've never really asked anyone that before. I've never really said to someone, please help me decide. Like, I've always carried that burden myself. And not that I've been having to make really hard life-changing choices all the time. But it's, again, just a pattern to shift. Like, if you're always the one that decides and you're always the one that carries that responsibility to make a decision, and you feel like you should know and you should be able to figure it out, and you can figure it out, why not try involving someone else in that and asking someone else if they can help make that decision and see what that opens up in your life?
Yeah. I love that. I did that for accepting help that was offered. It was my habit to say, oh, no, I'm fine. And then I made it a habit of accepting help, even if I didn't need help, or if help might, sometimes help causes things to be more difficult, although it's nice to have the help. And really only saying that I don't want help if I specifically do not want help, which probably took me many years to figure out.
Yes, I remember practicing that. I had the same thing of when people would offer to help, I'd be, no, I'm fine, I'm good. And so I knew that it would be beneficial for me to practice saying, oh, yes, please. Even if it was something that I could have figured out how to do, I could have done on my own, but I needed to give myself the opportunity to practice a different pathway, to open up that as an option.
Yeah.
And it's changed my life a lot. Mm-hmm.
It's beautiful.
Let's see. Oh, okay. Can I share a few more?
Yeah.
So, annoyances. You've heard me talk about this annoyance. And it's a byproduct of the life I've chosen, right? So I get that, which is every 3 to 4 months, every time season changes, my whole life schedule changes because I have 2 kids in competitive sports. And their practice times change and their game time changes. And what that means on a practical level for me is I don't know now which day we have practices, which day we have games, what time they're at. Like, I usually get finally into a groove of, I know which days to do my meal planning, which days to do my shopping, which days we're cooking, when I'm cooking, what we're eating. And then everything changes again. And it happened again recently. And so let me backtrack. A couple years ago, I did what you did with the letting it thunk, meaning it was the epiphany of like, oh, no wonder I feel so frazzled every 3 to 4 months. It's because my whole schedule changes. And then I was like, oh, okay. And then just with that, I was just more aware. Oh, in another month or so, my schedule is going to change. So just be aware that you're probably going to feel a little bit overwhelmed for a little bit because everything will be up in the air. Great. That doesn't really make my life particularly easier because we weren't changing anything, but it was just nice to have that heads up before you get smacked in the face with it. And then, of course, it happened again recently. My oldest son just started, his spring sports. And I remember one day I was like, why do I feel so rushed? Like, what is happening today? And it was a Tuesday and I was trying to finish work and cook dinner like I had for many Tuesdays in a row at that point. And then I realized, oh, we're in a different sports season. Practice that used to be at 8 o'clock is now at 6:30. And that's when I realized, okay, no more cooking dinner on Tuesday nights. It doesn't happen. It just makes it too rushed for me, too rushed for my kid. We're running around all over the place. It's not good. So I resolved that I am not cooking on Tuesday anymore. And if we're gonna eat a home cooked meal, it's being cooked on Monday.
Yeah.
Right? Or we're making sure there's something in the freezer that I can take out Tuesday morning and food is made. But that's like something simple that it's taken me a long time to learn to do for myself. Whereas before it's like, that's okay. I'll just cram it in my day earlier. That's okay. Maybe I won't even cram, but I'll just rush. I'm like, no, I'm in the season of creating more ease and flow in my life. I don't want to do that anymore. So it felt really good to tell myself, oh, Tuesdays are not going to be cooking days anymore.
That's wonderful. Yeah, if you had not applied any mindfulness to that, it would just be a super annoying thing that you were jamming into every Tuesday and all the ripple effects of being annoyed and rushed.
Yeah.
All we need is a little permission, a little examples, a little leeway.
Yeah. Right? Another little thing that was annoying me was I've been trying to get into this meal planning and prepping and cooking more at home. And then I get the time, the energy, the inspiration to like cook. I walk into my kitchen and it's a disaster. And there's like dishes all in the sink and whatever. And I encountered that many times. And then sometimes I didn't, because sometimes the sink is clean. And I resolved, I'm going to have a clean sink every night so that this doesn't happen. So that when the moment comes that I want to cook or I need to cook, it's already taken care of. And it felt so good to do that and to know my why I'm doing this so that I have more ease. Not I'm doing it because I should, not because to be a good housewife or housemaker or whatever, a good mom, I should have a clean sink, but because it makes my life feel better and easier. And there were a few occasions once I got this habit started where I almost slipped into the old habit of, no, I'm too tired. Let's not do it. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I was like, let's just challenge that a little bit. Let's just try to clean up the kitchen and maybe even see how long it takes, because maybe it'll surprise you. And sure enough, 10 minutes, it was done. But the old habit would have been like, too tired, too busy. And then, that old pattern would come back. Now, I also don't want to live my life in such a rigid way that I can never make exceptions, right? There were some other nights where I'm like, I'm already cozy in bed. It's already late. This time would be prime for me to actually just drift off into sleep. Because another thing I've been trying to work on is getting enough sleep. And so I thought to myself, which one has more value to me? Which one will make my life better? Is it to get out of bed and clean the sink, right? And cleaning the sink is not just cleaning the sink. It also wakes me up and gives me that, like I'm on that, what do you call it? Second wind. Second wind, right? And so I knew if I get up and do the dishes for 10 minutes, I'm probably up for another 2 hours. So in this case, it serves me most just to go to sleep. And I will know that tomorrow morning when I wake up, it won't be clean like I would like it to be, but I'll deal with it then and I'll be fine. It's one night, it's fine. So it's learning how to create systems that still allow you to be flexible. I was so all or nothing before that all of life felt clunky. Like lots of life felt really clunky because I was like, I either do it all the time or I never do it.
Yeah. And it's a life of shoulds, right? You're describing a life where you're clarifying what feels most true and most important to you and prioritizing those things. So it becomes just more and more clear what's actually important. And you judge that by your own feelings, your own experiences, and like what actually gets done is a pretty good indication of what's really important and prioritized at that moment. And then your life is different.
Yeah, like, so you really summed it up. Like, I used to live from a lot of shoulds, and then I would judge myself if I didn't do the shoulds. And I would sort of judge myself that it was easier for other people to do all the shoulds. And now it's really about living a life where I'm just practicing making more and more in the moment intentional choices. And for me, the headliner is I want it to be about creating ease for myself, something that feels good. And I was saying to you earlier, there was another season in my life that lasted a couple years where it was about discovering myself. Like, who am I? What do I enjoy? Right. And so everything sort of, all the habits and things I was practicing were related to that. I'm in a different season now. I've spent a good chunk of time discovering who I am, and that feels more solid. Now I'm in the season of how do I make little tweaks in my life that bring me more ease every day? Mm-hmm. Right. And we all might find ourselves in different seasons of life where the things you find annoying, the things you choose to practice changing fall under different categories.
Yeah. So notice what's one thing in life right now that's causing you annoyance, that's giving you that, again, with this feeling, or what's something that you know could be more easeful, and one tiny thing you could do about it. I'll bring you back to the tiny sunburn example, right? Mm-hmm. That's my main personal development goal this month. Putting a drop of sunscreen on my forehead and my snoot.
But that's the thing, is we don't think that that's a good personal development goal, right? But it is. In so many ways, it symbolizes so much also, right? Mine right now is that every week I pay attention to my finances and like what invoices need to be sent out. Like, I've always just been really trusting of people. Like, I know that things will get paid and whatever. But it creates a lot of work for me when I'm not on top of it. But when you're busy, you're like, yeah, I'll do that later. At least that's sort of my old mentality. I'm like, what would it be like to just feel on top of it every week? And so this week, I'm on top of it. It feels very good. I know what's coming in. Everyone that needs to know that it's time to pay knows. And that feels very nice. And that was something that I just would always just push off to the side.
Yeah. And I want to say for good reasons, right? Like, you had other priorities for reasons that have shifted. So if you're listening to this and you're like, oh, here's this list of shoulds that I really need to get on top of, like, that's not it. It's what feels true, what feels doable, what feels like an inspired action you could take, that you're ready to take. What are you sick of enough to make actual change? And if you're not sick of it enough yet, like, that's okay too. You'll get there.
Totally. Yes, because I want to say, like, if I could have a visual for you, I would want to let you know that there's a whole fishbowl of things that I'm not doing yet. I'm not doing them yet because I either don't feel like it, I don't feel inspired, it isn't the thing that's a priority right now, but they're all things that if I did them would better my life. Now, right now, I talk about them like they're in this fishbowl, like in tiny pieces of paper, like almost like fortune cookie little papers, folded up in the fishbowl, ready for me to choose from that bowl whenever I feel ready to like take on something new and practice something new. They are not this list. And the visual I have is my mother saying, you should do this. Why haven't you done this? And what about this? And if you did that, your life would be better. And that one too. Like, it's no longer on one of those lists. And that I'm sitting here thinking, oh my gosh, I only did this week. And the list is still 93 things long. And I feel all this pressure. And I feel like I'm not getting ahead in life. Like, it's not like that anymore.
Yeah.
It's, wow, I know that the fishbowl is full of things. It's full of little tweaks and big tweaks that I could do that would make my life better. I also know I'm one human raising 2 children, running a business, having clients, wanting to see my friends, being in a relationship. And so there's only so much time and energy to do and work on and practice so many of those things at one time.
Right.
And each one that I do I'm like, oh, I'm so excited I get to do this one. This feels so good to do this in service of a better feeling life for me. Like, to shift your life from that energy feels completely different than I'm shifting my life because I got to do all these to-dos because I should, and everyone else tells me I should, and I know I should, and everyone else does it too.
That's the wacky inflatable arm waving tube man versus the bamboo, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Right. It feels really nice to do things. Like, I get excited of what's the next thing I'm going to practice that's going to make my life feel a little bit better. That was not the energy I lived in for most of my life. It was, oh my God, what's the next thing I got to take care of because I've been so delinquent with it, right? And so avoidant.
Delinquent.
So overwhelmed. Yeah, so overwhelmed.
Amazing. We do have to wrap it up.
To wrap it up.
Is there anything else that you'd like to say before we wrap it up?
I have 2 little things. 3 little things. Can I say the 3 little things?
Yeah.
Yeah. Spring. You said spring changes things for you. Spring changed things for me too. I was walking in the fall. And then winter, it just sort of, my schedule changed. I wasn't dropping my kid off in the morning right by the park. And so walking sort of slipped off a bit. I walked some, but not as consistently. And I missed my walking. But then spring came, and guess what happened? I didn't push myself to, you got to go for a walk again every day because it felt so good before. And why don't you? And why aren't you? I felt the pull to do Qigong under the magnolia tree and the cherry blossoms. And like, so last week and the last couple weeks, a few times a week, I go outside and I find a tree that I like and I do 15 minutes of Qigong. And I haven't walked at all, except to the tree and back. But I don't make that wrong. But this is just the new habit for the new season. And it's nice to not feel like just because something felt good before, I must always do it like that. Maybe I'll return back to going for a daily walk. But for now, I'm really enjoying doing my Qigong under the tree every day. Right? So allowing...
That's a good one. You've added a positive habit in there, which is the not being hard on yourself part, right? You can notice like, why if I should and why aren't I? That's a great opportunity to introduce a new season of I'm not going to be so hard on myself.
Yes, and what helped me was to start categorizing these things instead of having this long to-do list, right? Of I walk every day or else I'm bad or I'm not good, right? It's, what if it's, for me, it was, I want to be out and have fresh air every day, right? Oh, today it's Qigong, or maybe these next 2 months is Qigong under a tree. And then maybe as it gets hot, it'll be something different because I might not want to stand under a tree for 15 minutes. Right? Maybe it'll be something like much earlier in the morning. It'll be like go for a swim in the pool that's shut right now. So, you know, I used to have a thing of I must exercise. I must go to the gym. And that was the only thing. And I was feeling like it's so rigid. And I thought, what would it be like if I changed it to movement for 20 minutes? It can be any kind of movement. And all of a sudden I was like, oh, this feels nicer. And it also gave me the opportunity, like you've been saying, to get to know myself each day. What kind of movement would feel good and supportive for me today? It will be different than maybe what feels good tomorrow or last week or in 2 weeks. And so I feel like when we move away from shoulds and when we move away from doing what works for everybody else, you get more opportunity to discover who you actually are and what feels best for you.
Yeah, we should do an episode about chunking up and down and sideways as a means of like accessing ourselves.
Yes, let's do that.
Yeah.
And then one more thing, I wanted to speak about friendships. New things to try in friendship, which was what I noticed a couple years ago was that in new friendships, And we're talking sort of about things that are annoying. I didn't even know it was annoying. It was just so normal to me, which was I tended to be the motor of new friendships. Like I would reach out, I would initiate, I would plan, I would make sure that we were connecting. And it never actually felt annoying to me. It was just normal to me until there was a time in my life where I reflected and I realized, like, where does that come from? Do I actually enjoy that? And I realized, maybe let's try something new out, which at the time I tried out hanging back and just feeling a connection with someone and enjoying that connected feeling, and then just trusting things to happen and unfold. And learning to trust that I don't have to be the one that creates everything. And I was so pleasantly surprised at the number of people who reached out to me and said, I really love your energy. And we met over here and like, they'd love to hang out for a coffee sometime. And I'm like, interesting. I never would have known that that energy is reciprocal because I never gave it space to happen. So that was a really neat thing, a new thing to practice. Of every time I felt the pull to walk up to someone or text someone or ask them for their number or their email, it's like, no, I'm not going to do that. And like, this is not to say there's anything bad about initiating connection. It was just that I noticed it's actually a good thing to be able to initiate connection. But I had an old pattern that I would do it all the time. And I would worry that if I didn't do it, I'd have no friends. So it was a fear-based thing. And I tried out the opposite and it was so neat. Now, here comes the interesting thing. With friendships that are more long-standing, there's certain friendships where I noticed I had the pattern of leaning back. And I would let other people reach out to me. And like, I would sort of let them sort of hold that, pull us along. And the thing is, it's not because I don't want to hang out with them. It's because I'm so sturdy in our love for each other that I'm like, I know we're good. But I realized, I think in some of these friendships, like I probably haven't reached out in a long time. Like, let me just practice that again. Let me just practice reaching out for no reason again. Because I used to do that all the time. Right? So notice which patterns you've sort of fallen into, whether it's just been a long-standing pattern or one that's sort of more recent that you've fallen into. Notice if it's something you want to tweak and practice changing and see what might happen if you did something a little bit different.
That's such a neat one, the first part of the friendship one that you described with the new friends, because it also includes a story, which is really like identity making, which is anytime you hear yourself saying, I always or I never, there's some story there, right? And what you're describing is something I see a lot of people talking about when they're posting on Facebook groups for support. Usually there's a friendship, I feel like I'm extending more, etc. And this always happens. I'm always the long arm. I always reach out first. And what you're describing is just breaking the pattern. Like, if your story is that you always reach out first and you wait 1 minute longer than you normally do, that story can just be shattered, right? Like, it could have been that this whole time, if you just waited 25 seconds longer, the other person reached out. But we're operating like this informs our entire life and all of our friendships. That's huge.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I think this will be another episode, but like the whole under functioning, over functioning, right? Notice where you've been over functioning in your life, in your relationships, and you'll probably be pissed off and secretly resentful that someone's been under functioning, but you keep the pattern going.
Yeah. There's so many opportunities to look at ourselves all the time.
There are.
Hey, thanks, Gigi. Okay, well, I have a closing practice, Emma.
Okay.
This is, so I wonder if it was at the same time, I like to imagine it was, that you were doing Qigong under the magnolias, and I was reading about Qigong in my little cemetery that I like to go sit at.
Which I would never do. which you love to do. And I think that's great.
Yeah. So we'll just go right into it. And okay, so this is like a variation on feet that I found really energy raising, and very grounding at the same time, which is neat for me because I like the sort of etheric stuff and I really benefit from grounding. So how to combine those? Well, that's what I did in this, Terry. So feel your bum, feel your feet. You can be sitting or standing, doesn't matter. You can even be lying down. You're going to feel your connection with whatever is touching whatever is beneath you. So right now I've got my feet on a step on the ground. And just visualize the earth that we're on. A huge planet beneath you. And draw energy up from that planet. In Qigong, this is Earth Qi. This is the energy of the earth that sustains everything that we know and love and need to be nourished. And feel all of that energy coming up through your feet. And up your legs. Let that energy fill your body. Just notice any sensations. Notice if you can feel energy moving. A moment of appreciating that connection to earth and energy. And then notice how your body feels. You can mark the disconnection from earth in whatever way feels good to you. Maybe scrunching your toes, or taking some breaths. Coming back into the room or the space you're in now.
I feel like sturdier and lighter at the same time in a pleasant way. Like there's a sturdiness that contains me and like a lightness that I get to experience all sort of up in my head and body. Yeah. It's neat because I anticipated the feeling sturdy, but I didn't anticipate the feeling light. So that was a pleasant surprise.
Right? Those can go together.
Yes.
Bamboo is pretty light, you know?
Mm-hmm. And also sturdy.
Yeah. Nice. Okay. Well, then that's it for this week, eh?
I think so.
Okay. Great. Well, thank you guys for being here then. As always, please do like, follow, and subscribe, and leave us a review. And if anything we've said has been helpful for you, please share it with somebody that you care about. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.